when it comes to renovation and interior design, adding plants become an afterthought. And I can say that it has consequences.
Having said that, some people just don't have the green fingers.
Personally, I don't believe in green fingers or green thumb. I believe in science. When plants don't grow, there's always a reason. And it's usually lack of care or no proper care.
Jason has a saying lah.
The best gardeners kills the most plants.
If the plant pass away in your house, I think it's a very good thing.
My Feng Shui master said must put a plant here.
But no matter how I look at the space, 什么 plant 都会死. So how do we mitigate issues like this?
Fake plants. I always encourage fake plants.
So it's symbolism lah. It's like having a plant is better than having no plants, right?
Renovation isn't just about tiles and mood boards. It's about people and the personalities, as well as the stories that help make the decisions. I'm Astley Ng, aka The Designer. Join me for the Season 2 of the SIXiDER Show. Hi everyone, welcome to the SIXiDER Show. Episode, don't know which one, but it's 2 episodes away to the final episode of this season. In any case, today we're joined by 2 very interesting tradesperson, merchants. We have Jason and then we have Master KK. So 30 seconds to a minute for you guys. I'll start with Master KK.
Hi, I'm KK from Circle 96. We specialize in helping people to make money.
What does that mean?
So we like to create wealth sector for customers so that they have what.
Okay, Joe Jomancy lah. And then we have Jason.
Hello everyone, my name is Jason. I'm from Plant Co. Here we sell plants, retail, and then we also do landscaping as well for residential and commercial.
Why we decided to group you guys today, right, in this episode, right, was because Jason is a plant guy, right? And then Master KK is a Feng Shui guy. And in many instances, in homes, many people use plants as an energizer for good chi, good fortune, whatsoever. And we thought that it actually would be a good mix to have both specialists, alright, to either debunk myths or talk about maintenance and all that. Right? So essentially, I think this episode, right, is really quite eye-opening. Can't wait to get to the questions. So I'm going to start the questions to Jason first. Right? And what's an indoor plant that's becoming surprisingly overrated in Singapore and why?
I wouldn't say plants are overrated, but generally I think very popular will be the Everfresh.
The one behind you.
The one behind. Getting so popular until it's becoming very common. If this goes on, maybe it might reach the overratedness. But at this point of time, I think it's still one of the best plants to have. Reason being, it's really a very easy plant to grow. Very easy to revive. Very hardy. And it's very beautiful. And it suits the modern deco of the current homes.
Both of you can answer this question. If you were to describe yourself as a plant, what would you be and why?
So I probably is what the Chinese call a tie su.
Tie su, okay.
Yeah. So really hardy. So I think that described my journey in life. Always up and down, hardy.
Jason?
Well, I still don't have a plant in mind, but I mean, if you ask me what is really my favorite, I would say I started off growing ficuses. So I think they're very hardy. And my dog is called ficus. So generally, I think ficus is probably a plant that I think the hardiness describes me. Hopefully, 打不死.
And I see in the past, right, and especially in interior designer for like so many years in Singapore, right, the way that Singaporeans start keeping plants, it used to be like small pots, right, and usually it's either you buy it from the market or you buy it from the supermarket, and usually it's like anything that can fit in the plastic bag. And rarely will we go for trees. And if there's an occasional tree, it's probably one that we'll put outside the pomegranate. But over the years, right, we're seeing more and more of these homeowners actually bringing plants indoors. And these are not small plants anymore. It's substantial, it's proportionate. It actually becomes very eye-catching. Like it's almost like a statement piece. And we're also seeing that Feng Shui masters are also looking at employing these as very good chi and energizer, because in the past when it's a small pot, right, I mean, maybe the efficacy is not as great, but when the plant is substantial like this, maybe the chi generated is stronger. Do you agree to that point?
Totally agree. Well, so like I said, I specialize in helping people find the wealth sector. So one of the things in the wealth sector that we always emphasize for people is having green plants, large green plants. Of course, having said that, some people just don't have the green fingers. So tough, they reject our suggestions. But if they can, and they love plants, and they have that space accommodating the plants, we always strongly suggest large plants.
But if let's say it is a plant that's being used as a chi energizer, somehow or other things happen in a plant die. Does this, like, some of the Pandang way of the saying is that they say the plant took the negative energy and then died. And then they don't want to carry on the thing. And then they bring in artificial plant. So firstly, I think it's two-part question. The first question is that if the plant dies in our hand, does this mean that it's bad and therefore you cannot keep plant again? No, so that's the first question. The second question is that then what about bringing artificial plant? Would it loses its efficacy?
Okay, so maybe I put into three parts to your question. The first part is, do I believe in such things as the plants 帮你挡煞 or help you take away all the bad energy? Yes. So what happened? I'll give you actually what happened. So my brother is a Christian, staunch Christian. Okay, so we don't speak of my work. He probably thinks that it's the other way around. So what happened was he was in New York. He was studying in New York in a cold winter, snowing, heavy storm, and then he had an accident. It was a 30-over car collision.
Wow.
Yeah, my brother was the center, and then walk out, not even a single scratch, nothing. But he went home, so his ariwana jumped on a fish tank and passed away. So he called my father immediately, and my father said, "Let's tell you, So if you ask me, yes, these are all called signs, okay? So yes, if the plant passed away in your house, I think it's a very good thing. Take away all the bad energy. It's also the warning sign. Okay, so the morning that my dad passed on, the lights in my northwest sector, which represents the father, blew off. So I told my wife, I said, I think Papa, maybe, and within a few minutes we received calls so that we better come down to the hospital. Yeah, so these are telltale signs that tells you that you need to be careful if you're especially in a business. When a plants die in the northwest sector, then you say, hey, maybe this deal not so good, walk away. Things are too good sometimes, just may not be, maybe a trap, etc., etc.
Wow. Okay, the third part is the artificial plant.
So, can we have artificial plants? Yes, but not dead plants. Meaning to say, I don't want plants that have been dried. No more life. It used to be alive, then no more life, cannot. But 本来就没有生命的，本来就是 artificial. Okay, no problem. There's some places just cannot have plants. We also understand. But we still need that kind of energy or vibes that we need to bring the plants in to create the wealth for the customer. We need that.
Well, this is interesting because it segues to Jason's one of his product. Besides selling natural plants, real plants, he also does artificial plants. And his is actually quite interesting because it's actually somewhat of an upcycle. He actually use plants, the branches.
Real stems, real wood stems, but with artificial leaves. So you create a very natural look.
Jason has a saying.
The best gardeners kills the most plants.
Experiment.
Seriously, I mean, really, you think of who kills the most plants, really, the ones who really have the most experience will kill the most plants.
There will be some deaths.
Sure got casualties one.
Yeah. But I think that's the interesting thing about it, because as the thing grow, it's like your wealth growth like that. Every time we see a new leaf come out, right, it's actually very exciting. Yeah. So for us, right, like we run a business like SIXiDES, where it's a startup. I felt that plant is a very important symbol in our office. It's not just a Feng Shui thing, but every time we see it sprout, it's like our idea has taken root, or that new ideas is seeing results. So it represents growth. So I think that's, to a certain extent, very symbolically tied to Feng Shui. Is there any truth to that?
Yes. So I was just having lunch with the two interior designer just before I came over. I was just telling them jokingly, I said, my son is speaking to a lady. And dating. Okay. So, but I'm the last to know in the family, as usual. Father.
As usual.
Yeah. So I was just telling her, since you guys got two daughters, let me just share something with you. Say if your girls is dating, tell your girls is dating a boy, a handsome little boy, and then she starts prospering in her career. Her career just took off. Business good, sales good, 老板喜欢疼她, take off. This boy 忘记. Correct. If your daughter gets scolding, make accident, then someone, etc. Then 客气. For them it's 客气 because they are daughters. Same thing. If you see plants that are growing in your house, a new lives or it's actually growing, wow, energy must be good for the plant, right? Correct or not? Don't you feel it also 开心? You know?
When it comes to Feng Shui, right, you guys will probably prescribe like a plant in a certain position and all that. Okay, so given that, there are plants that totally cannot live in that space. But then we have encountered clients who came to us, my Feng Shui master say, must put a plant here. But no matter how I look at the space, 什么 plant 都会死. Okay, so how do we mitigate issues like this?
Fake plants. Fake plants. I always encourage fake plants.
So it's symbolism lah. It's like having a plant is better than having no plants, right?
Especially people who are so busy now with their career, and people like to travel. Then who can water the plants? You know, or take care of the insects, etc.
I follow up with that question. So, some plants in that one corner, and then should it be properly because plants, look good, it needs good lighting lah. And then should it be properly littered out, even though it's not a real plant? And then B is that plant over a period of time, fake one in one corner it gets dusty. So for Feng Shui, should we bring it to the bathroom, clean it, then bring it back and properly dress it up again?
Yes. So for the cleaning part, even if your clothes are hanging outside without a cabinet, it gets dusty. What do? You send for dry cleaning again, So even a table is dusty, you clean it. It's so the plant is dusty. Hose it down with water and then, go to the balcony, let it dry and then come back again.
Never hose.
There
are different school of thoughts. Some Feng Shui master is like cannot have artificial plants. Then so for us sometimes it's like some Feng Shui master will say it's a symbolism. Having a plant there is better than having an artificial plant there is better than having a dead plant.
I totally agree. I'd rather have a fake plant that looks green and natural and real than dwindle that.
The plant has
or also not very good, right?
Yeah, it's not good for the Feng Shui as well.
Exactly.
I think from a interior designer's point of view, I think the point about having fake plants is just to make it believable. And as long as we introduce a plant that's very believable, then I think that will do the trick. Because interior design science is really about the sensation, the emotions when you're in the space. And if the plants or the fake plants does the job equally well, it makes no difference whether it is a real plant or not. Except that if you are planting it and then it grows and you are looking forward to that kind of growth, then to you that's a very different thing. But I think I speak for the rest of my colleagues here who are not green thumbs, but they don't mind the
aesthetic of it.
Yeah, the aesthetic. It's like Changi Airport, right? We travel all over the world, but Singapore is the one that when we come in, we see all these plants and we feel them show. And I think it's a very painstaking effort, but one that really pays off. So 100% believe that plants are very important. And not all plants in Changi Airport are real. I just realized that also. I went to discover some of this thing.
So the sharing having plants at home, I think we are not just we don't have the luxury of going to the nature anymore as and when we like. I mean, we don't live in kampong at all. Last time it's kampong 出门就是
plants
forests or fruit trees or plantations. We don't. But then what we do? Bring in the plants to your house,
Okay, just now you guys mentioned something about green thumbs. Okay, I want to debunk this myth. Personally, I don't believe in green fingers or green thumb. I believe in science. So I think there's always when plants don't grow, there's always a reason, and it's usually probably wrong care or lack of care or no proper care. So I feel everybody can grow plants if you understand the plant and you follow the proper watering, placement and all that. Yeah, everybody should be able to grow a plant.
Okay, so after the icebreaker, go straight into more plants and Feng Shui related question. This one's for Jason. And I feel that it is improving, but I do think that the majority of homeowners, when it comes to renovation and interior design, adding plants become an afterthought. And I can say that it has consequences. Number one, just now you all mentioned, that space are really impossible because there's no natural light and all that. And then they have not integrated good lighting, meaning the plant, ultimately needs light. So it's going to be severely compensated. So would you agree that firstly, that this culture of they want plants but they always treat it as an afterthought is still prevalent? And then if today anyone's going to go through renovation and they're thinking of having plants, would coming to you first as a first stop make any difference?
Yes, actually you're right. It's prevalent but getting better. So we have already seen a lot of designers starting to integrate plants into their design. But in the past, I mean, why plants have always been an afterthought? Basically, I think plants are not like furniture. They are not like our appliances. They don't have a specific function. It's like without plants you won't die, but without your sofa you got nowhere to sit. So that's why they have always become an afterthought. But I think people are generally Singaporeans are very house proud, so they really like to look at IG, look at magazines, to know what's in trend. So I think a lot of plants are being featured now in magazines and in IG and all that. So people are starting to realize that plants actually does make a difference to the house, to the deco. Having a big statement plant there or some greens somewhere, it does bring out life in the space. So getting better, I would say. As for whether coming to us first is good, yes, I would say so. One of my pet peeves, the things that we always have to deal with is clients coming to us, customers coming to us. My designer has wanted a plant here, and then I only like real plants. But same thing like Feng Shui It's like, but I look at your lighting, cannot lay. 什么 plant 你放你都是 sure die one So we always tell them then don't either you go for artificial or just don't have a plant there. So if they had integrated the plants or spoken to us in the early part of the design, right? Then at least we can advise, if you want to plant here, install lights, grow lights may help, or otherwise you may have to shift the plant somewhere. It's very easy to drag and drop a plant into a visual rendering. Because it's flat 2D I drag and put anywhere also look nice But when it comes to real growing conditions, you have to reconsider.
I mean, it's interesting that you say it that way because if we talk about the evolution of the interior design industry, it used to be hand-drawn. And when we draw, right, it's probably
A tree's harder to draw.
Yeah, it's like a shrub, a shrub. And then with some marker colors, right? Then eventually we move into 3D Studio Max, right? Then we use then it depends on whether we can find the object file, right? The model. Then we bring it in. In the period of time, I think Dracaena, Draco, these are very popular. Then every drawing, every render has some form of Dracaena. And then Instagram came, Pinterest came, and then suddenly the world's our oyster. We are seeing a lot more inspo from all over the world. Right. And that's where I started to see that people want trees and they don't just want plants. They want trees that are, I mean, from the tropical context landed house in Singapore, I think one of the very famous architects, Su Chan, he brought in a lot of frangipani. So at one stage, right, frangipani, because of its very architectural form. And then of late, right, like just now what you said, the ficus, and then now it's Everfresh, they all share the same quality, which is that you can see the tree trunk and then the form. But lately, what I've noticed is that the plants are getting skinnier and skinnier. They kind of look a little bit more sculpted because of the skinny look, but then they look kind of malnourished to a certain extent.
It's a Korean wave, I think. You realize that the Koreans are starting to have all these very skinny plants. So plants got trends, like you say, starting from the Dracaena, in the 50s, you see those American, if you watch Mad Men, then you know that the Dracaena at the point of time and the ficus they are very popular. Then it came to this, and then right now Everfresh is considered one of the skinnier ones. So it's trend. I think I'm not sure what the next trend would be, but we shall see.
Is there any saying that when a tree is skinny looking, is it good or bad, or the tree needs to be flourishing and bountiful?
I think you have to be fair to the tree, isn't it? Certain species are a bit, bulky and stocky. Certain species just slim like human beings. Some people are, we have to be fair to the trees. But if you ask me, personally, what I like? I like trees that are a bit bigger, a bit stocky. For wealth sector especially, I think everybody like more money lah. Okay, that's it. 比较有肉嘛，就是这样。But nothing wrong to have smaller trees.
In a very ideal environment, when Mother Nature takes over, plenty of plants, right? I was having a run this morning and I saw, not sure whether you know what's an alocasia, elephant ear alocasia. The freaking leaf is taller than me. Just the blade of the leaf. Like our cards, right? They look like spade, the form, right? And beautiful. But the thing is so tall. Now, we bring plants indoor, right? Is there ever such a situation where, I know Jason will disagree for sure, but I want to hear from the Feng Shui master. Is there ever such a thing as too much plants?
So 物极必反嘛. So don't have too many things in our house. We all know there are 8 cardinals. north, south, east, west. The northeast and southwest, you just cannot have plants. You know, and you'll punish the health of the whole family. You know, even north you have plants, cash 就不见去了, no cash flow is done. So there are just certain places you just cannot have plants.
像我要回家 check 我 direction 了。
Yes, please.
So what you're saying is that because of those areas, they are not ideal. You shouldn't put are not conducive, not optimized. In terms of optimization, if they are ideal, we can put more.
Yes, not put more lah. 适当就好啊. So for example, if you ask me, I really like to have plants in the east sector. Especially if you have a boy at home, and then you want the boy to be, you know, who doesn't want that boy to grow up tall and you know, like Jason like that? I'm sure the plant is correctly. You know.
Like 6 feet 9. That's like
Just a tall duck and hamster.
No, now my worry is my balcony is facing north. And I can only have plants in the balcony. Then 怎么办?
Remedy. That's where I come in.
then you'll do private consult. No, but I got a bigger question. Because his whole shop north, south, east, west sure must put plants. He sell plant 嘛。
做生意没有办法嘛，对不对？养鱼的整个都是水的嘛，对不对？没有办法。
So that's the 可以 bypass 的啦。
可以 bypass，
If you sell plants.
It gets remedy to be done also. So all these are easy things. There are things that he plays wrongly. There are things he plays correctly. Then compensate also.
I see. Okay. If not, then you do a home business or sell plants then you can keep plants. That's why.
I don't know.
I'll follow up on this. When you say too many plants, okay, when the plant is taking up too much of your energy to take care, then that's when it's too many. That's very important. So I think plants, emotionally, they help lah. But it shouldn't be up to a point where it's taking up too much of your energy, and then it's like today here die, there die, and then you cannot cope with it, but you still want to keep plants. That's a bit over lah. I feel.
I think what he means is that you don't be a hoarder to anything lah. There's some people who hoarders to cats, hoarders to bags.
I mean, when you start hoarding,
plants,
then it becomes a problem.
Hoard money, okay.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I represent one group of the plant homeowners is that we buy stands, we buy pots, and then we house the plants. And then somehow or other the plant die, right? Then the pots, the stands are just sitting there. Okay, we got to do something about it. And so like this never ending, trying to fill it up. That's what I'm guilty
I think
of.
that's okay.
Is it?
That's okay. It's not like when all your plants are doing well, but you still keep on thinking of, I want to add more. Okay, adding, if you can cope with it, that's not a problem. But if you add until you cannot cope with it, then it becomes an issue.
Yeah, I still want to ask some more question. And then this is to Master KK. And especially since you practice modern Feng Shui, right? I feel that your school of Feng Shui, right, and modern science, right, actually got some crossover. Especially when it comes to like spaces making you feel emotionally, you feel more comfortable. And do you think that plants, I think you kind of mentioned it, but I just want you to maybe elaborate a bit more. Do you think that plants are really something that can change the mood and the sentiment of the space?
Yes. So first and foremost, plants is a living organism. So having an indoor plant, I think, is very good. Having outdoor plants is even better, give you shades and all that stuff. So in a house, I really don't like straight line too much. Because it's really just too direct, and a lot of quarrels, a lot of family members not able to meet eye to eye. It's nice to have some softer decor, some soft finishing, or some plants. Plants is natural. It's nice. Nobody will say, I see the plants, I don't like it. Nobody will go into the garden or the park and say, I hate to see the tree or hate the... No. Because Mother Nature, everybody see whether the eyes are so comfortable. 心情会好. So yes, please, if possible, have plants there. I'm not saying this because Jason is beside me. I'm not saying because my two relatives are horticulturists. No. I'm saying because of my practice, I like to have plants. Of course, provided there are conducive area for the plants to grow and don't waste the plant. Also, it's awesome.
Actually, very interestingly, when you say you don't like straight lines too much, I like straight lines a lot. And that's where plants come in.
The juxtaposition.
Correct. So it's like, imagine everything straight line. I like it a lot, but I think a plant there, it breaks the thing. I think it makes it a lot more interesting. Yeah.
So on this, right, I'm not sure whether you've been to Apple shop or some cafes and lounges, right, where they integrate furniture like the table or maybe even the seating arrangement, right, with a plant right smack in the center as a centerpiece. We have one project by Melvin King, an architect, where we will show you in the video here, where actually he has an island, and in that kitchen island, right, he has a plant at one corner. Now, the integration like that, firstly, to design it, not easy lah, because then you got to think about the potting and then the water and all that. The next part here is that it's not exactly in the corner. So is this, from a Feng Shui point of view, right, ideal or not ideal?
I cannot answer you outright whether it's ideal or not ideal now because I've never been to the place. I never see where was it placed.
Just based on the form factor.
Okay. Feng Shui is a tool. Do not be dictated by the tool. We tell the tool what to do.
Oh,
Correct? It's just a tool. Don't let Feng Shui run your life. You should use it to improve your life.
harness it.
Yes. So Feng Shui is basically environmental study, or I also call it geography. If the plant is there, it brings out the whole ambience, the whole vibes, then you know it's the correct place. And everybody comes in and say, wow, your house is so beautiful. Your lobby is, wow, really. So I was having a conversation. We were in the office space yesterday. Some of the stakeholders were there and they were discussing with the interior designer. Then the interior designer proposed, should we really doll up your entrance and your cafeteria area so that when it's so beautiful, people are better behaved. Then she gave her own case study. She did case office. She said case study, people go and bang table because not happy or the compensation or whatever. But the moment they doll it up nicely, dress up the whole place, very classy, people tend to behave better, with more manners. So if you want to attract more better quality tenant, why don't you doll up? That idea sold to us, and you were like, okay. So if plants is able to bring up the whole ambience or the whole place, lift up the energy, confirm.
It changes user behavior also.
Exactly.
But then you see, since you're also a designer, I think you'll concur with me. It's like lines, right? If you are regular, then the sentiment is that it's kind of stoic and maybe even peaceful, right? If it's linear and all that. Then if we bring in certain lines that is, let's say, jagged, zigzag, then the energy starts, right? And certain plants have that kind of form. For example, the snake plant, or they also call it the mother-in-law plant, right? Which is basically like a blade like that. And so in design speak, right, those kind of lines are very energetic, right? And I've heard people say that having some of these plants are literally symbolizes blade, or they means that the family will have quarrel. How true is that?
So shapes, so they look at the shapes. Look at the shape is determine whether it has some issues or not. So if you think that you have this snake blade type of plants, you don't put it in the west sector law, then don't quarrel law. West is communication, and don't put in the west sector and don't quarrel law. Put in the southeast sector lah. No? Water, put, this wavy thing, right? Put it like a water for your southeast, your daughter, 长得又漂亮又高又大. Why not?
So it is a thing lah, right? Really, the shape of the leaves actually play a part in Feng Shui one.
It does.
So what would be a neutral, fail-safe, won't get into problem one? Because like that one is very obvious, it's really sharp and all that. What kind of plants are 不带机 one?
So green.
Okay.
I think some plants got colours one.
Got black one also.
Got
ZZ
green
plant.
or whatever, color. So green is generally safe. Safe. Yeah.
Green leafy lah.
Green leafy. Don't too pointy. I don't do too pointy. Also don't do too big pieces of.
But a lot of people don't like the tieshu because of the sharp points.
Yeah.
How to mitigate it?
Don't pull on. Not really like me, right?
No, but
I don't like it.
No, but is it in Feng Shui is really not good? Because that plant apparently is supposed to be quite good in Feng Shui. But then yet a lot of people, there are people who think that, it's bad Feng Shui because of the sharp leaves.
Yeah. So I'm not going to argue with people what they think is correct, what they think is not right. If you really like that plant, it's okay. But if you really think that it's too pointy, then don't have it. There are not just one type of plants, right? There are many type of plants, right? I'm sure you can find
some substitute.
Substitute, yeah, correct.
In my heart, I was just thinking about a recent case. I'm sure you all heard of this brand called Prism Plus. They renovated their office, and then I know them pretty well, and then I went to their place, and then a lot of formaldehyde. So then they were asking me how to deal with it. I said you can do this, do that. Plants will also help lah, right? Then I said okay, maybe you look through this, which I give them this NASA list of plants to have that will help to kind of eradicate formaldehyde, bring in, or naturally will bring out a lot of oxygen and all that. And this the snake plant is the one. So what happened was about 2 months later I went to Prison Plus. It's snake plants everywhere. And then now I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, wow, angles and all that. Generally, it's like not so good, right?
No, don't need to ask me. You ask the boss, how's your business? Is your business up or down? Then you know you have the answer already.
I would say it's energetic lah. I mean, Prison Plus they're doing pretty good lah. But the interesting thing is that it is a very fast moving company lah. But and it's a lot of
Prison Plus is
energy.
doing aircons now, they're doing fan, they're doing many things.
Like a Xiaomi already.
Yeah, so you ask them, your business up or business down? Business up, continue lah. Business down, then call me lah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, I got one question. That time when I went to China for landscape course, right? So they were saying that don't plant a tree in the middle of the of a plot, okay? Or in the middle of the house, because mu and cold it becomes kun. Yeah. So
It's not just that, because center of the house is always considered as the earth.
okay,
So try not to have that.
right.
Okay, so this segment is basically talking about plants, placement, flow, and energy. I think in Singapore, right, we have a lot of plants that are named after money. I think money plant 就好有好几种. I don't know why 有这么多种啊. There is the pothos. They also call pothos money plant, right? Then there is the money tree, which is basically because the leaf right got five finger, 因为它有五行. Then what they do is they go and twine it. Actually, the plant by itself is very beautiful. Then they twine it, right? Then there is also the coin plant.
Yeah, the Chinese money plant.
Chinese money plant. So actually, how many are there? Do you know?
When it comes to money, these three are the main lah. The rest are fortune lah, whatever. Chinese, they like to add a symbolism to everything. Yeah. So interestingly, the money tree, the braided one, was a marketing whatever. By
Like Christmas like that lah.
Taiwanese, yeah, they braided it together and then gave it a symbolism and a name. That's why it suddenly took off. So that was what I read lah.
So again, don't just blindly buy for the sake of just buying. If you really have good architects or good interior designer, please speak to them. Or if you know someone that is really professional in horticulture, speak to them and then show them your house design. Go to their shop and speak to them. Sit down. I'm sure they are more than
there are a lot of choices.
Yeah, more than willing to discuss with you and how to enhance your home environment. Right?
What about those seasonal or what I call fast plants? Meaning the tangerines, the Chinese New Year tangerines, or even the Chinese New Year, they got this colorful like Christmas one, the yellow and the purple. And then they got this like bamboo shoots that they put in the small containers, sell a lot at NTUC.
Pussy willow.
Pussy willow also. And seasonal because after a while they just cannot survive one. Is there any efficacy or is this purely symbolism?
So in order to have that kind of atmosphere for a celebration, Chinese New Year or Christmas, plants play a big part, doesn't it? I mean, Christmas, look at the trees, So it's a $1 million industry. So you need to have plants to bring out the celebrative atmosphere of the season. Have it. But the moment the plant take a toll, because of the season, you have to discard it. Don't keep anything that's dead or that's not surviving.
Actually, a lot of these plants Singapore is a very good place to grow plants because of our climate. So a lot of these plants, even like your oranges, they can still continue to grow in Singapore. So if you don't want to discard it, you want to continue to grow, carry on growing. But for me, my take is that things like pussy willow, in fact, it can still continue to grow sometimes also in Singapore. But after New Year, 你放在那边不会有点奇怪吗? So it's not. I mean, decorative yes, but decorative must 应景嘛. It's for the season ma. So even if it grows, you still go and put a pussy willow throughout the whole year. I feel like you are not very keen on like making your space look good. It's just there for the sake of being there. So my take is you don't have to throw the plant away. You can always grow it somewhere else. You see, you have corridors, you have balconies, you have outdoors. Grow it there. Then when it does well, then the next season bring it in again. No? Then it's not wasteful. Yeah, for example, I still have all the small, the mini tangerines and all that. I'm still growing outside the balcony. So when it comes to Chinese New Year, I'll bring it in again. Yeah, then 你就没有浪费掉。
Anything to add to that?
I think it's a good practice. You know? After all, it's still alive. It's a living thing. Yeah. So long as it's still growing properly, you're not torturing the plant because of different climates, etc. Continue. Why not? And if you, of course, with the know-how.
We talk about plants just now, that we can place it at the corridor and all that. HDB close one eye lah. But it's technically not our space. And is it utilizable in terms of Feng Shui? Like the plant is outside my house, therefore is it part of the qi I can use or not?
So that's a very good question. Even though it's not, you did not pay for it, it is communal area, it does affect you. So always keep your communal area clean, neat and nice. If you have plants out there, please take care of them. Don't let it become a little jungle or like running wild. Do take care of them, and it does affect your qi.
So I've seen a lot flats where sometimes they don't take care or it's undernourished. The plants are still there,
Struggling lah.
struggling, but it's undernourished, right? Maybe also drying out, not taking. So these would also bring bad luck to the occupants.
Of course, especially our hot temperature, our climate is so hot. You really need to water the plants. And if you, and we like to travel, if no one's taking care of plants, at least can you please ask your neighbor to help you take care of your plants? You know, because anything that's not doing well outside your house is directly affecting you.
We were talking about like if the plant is in a very bad spot and it wouldn't do well, because I think plants essentially need 4 things. I was educated by Jason, 4 or 3.
Mainly soil, light, water. These 3 main.
The extra is air.
Humidity, temperature, and also pests.
But there are certain technology that can play a part already. Like today, we do have some lights that can help lah, but they are not 100% like they can replace natural lighting, right? Would you say so?
Yep. To some extent, yes, it helps, but to what extent it helps? So I mean, a smaller plant requires definitely lesser light than a larger plant. So I think if you're planning to have a super big tree in your house, how many lights are you going to place? And then does it affect your deco? That's also another question. You know, if you're not going to if you're not at Changi Airport, you know, why do you need really so many lights? So I think we have to balance design and the plants as well. Or you don't want your place to look flooded with light. You know, the moment you walk in, wow, blinding. Then 你就没有感觉了嘛。
But you see that the given trend is, number one, more people are moving from plants, potted plants, to trees. The requirement for lights is, like you said, much more. Of course, Feng Shui master would prefer something bigger as opposed to a small pot plant because the activation is not as powerful, right?
Okay, true. But I always look into the size of the house.
Proportion.
Proportion. So having a big Buddha in a small house, 大神在小屋里面 is very struggling. It's like elephant in the box. So same thing.
I mean, you could also instead of big plant, you have several small plants, right? Correct.
So there are many ways to go about it, and of course different species of plants. There are some bigger, there are some smaller. Of course, taking into consideration, you also must check whether the species can grow into something that's really bushy.
So it's a balance of a lot of things like design, aesthetics. You know, whether the plant can grow, your environment, all this must come into play.
I think this question is, a lot of people have this thing that they always want to ask a Feng Shui master, which is cactus or plants that has thorns, right? All right, are they really, as they say, good at tang sa? And is there such a thing as tang sa? No? Like so, cactus, roses, right? Are they like what they say, lor?
Let me just put it this way: in the study of Feng Shui, we really don't like something that is sharp in our house. It's really not so ideal. Unfortunately, some plants have thorns. I love bougainvillea. I love roses because my mom's name is Roses. But you must understand, bougainvillea and rose also have very nice flower. So, 如果你要赚到钱，你要享受成果，你要经过苦难。You might put in the hard work and sweat. Correct or not? There's no such thing that you get the roses, but you don't want the hard work. 不可能的. Let's be just realistic. So this is life. Everything happens in Mother Nature happens for a reason. You know. So to answer your questions, if you personally don't feel comfortable, don't have it. But if you really love it, there are some nice cactus that have very nice leaves. I think you call them. Have those.
Add-on question to that is that there's this thing called an air plant. But air plants are essentially they thrive on the humidity in the air. and then actually you can't tell whether they are alive or dead or not. I don't know lah.
Can tell lah. They turn brown when they die. Really die, yeah.
So my question is actually, if you have a lot of that, right, and these kind of plants, and they're not the traditional way that you keep them, like they're not in a pot, they're usually on some kind of a pedestal or shelving, or in some kind of pot with no soil. Are they good energizers?
Yes.
Also good.
Yes. So let's just take plants into human beings. Some people eat certain things, some people don't like to eat certain things. So this is still a human being. So certain things, plants have their own character, human beings have their own character. You cannot say because you don't eat XYZ, you are not a human being, you're not a good person. No. You know? So same thing, each have their own way of living, each has their own way of surviving. So these air plants requires the humidity of our environment to thrive, so be it. But it's still green, it's still beautiful, it's still lively. Have it.
Okay, so this segment is where we ask you guys to confess. I made a confession. Just now I think you all confessed quite a bit already. But this is more like personal reflection about your industry law. Maybe we start with Jason. What's something you used to tell customers about plants in the past? Because you mentioned you were selling plants for the last 5 years or so. And I'm sure when you first started, right, maybe you could have given some advice that now you look back retrospectively, you will say something else.
Very paiseh, that day I just was flipping some pictures. That was one of our very first skipping job. I look at the picture, I was like, show Rachel, my partner. It's like, hey, I cannot believe I did this last time. Wow, 很难看leh. But yeah, really, but then at that point of time when we first started, it was damn cheap. So okay, for that price, actually you didn't lose. But it was seriously damn ugly. So over time, we did improve. I think, I feel that we really are honing a craft. So we see more, we learn more. And for each project, we always ask ourselves whether, hey, is this project better than the last one? And I think we have been quite honest with ourselves. Yes, I think we've been improving.
But besides your design background, how do you train yourself? How do you get trained on this particular craft?
Like all design law, first of all, you have to see. Then first you learn, you imitate. It's only after you imitate until a certain level, then you can start introducing your own things. But very important, you have to understand plants. You have to understand whether this plant works, that plant works. So it's a new canvas. Last time our canvas is typefaces, colors. Right now it's plants, the space of the whole environment and all that. So over time you learn. We also experiment. There are some projects that we are not sure whether this plant will work. We might want to try it. If really cannot work, we will replace. Yeah. So we always have this 1 month guarantee. It's like if this plant doesn't work in this space or whatever, if this plant dies and not due to improper care or whatever, we will replace the plant. At times we use it to experiment. Yeah. Because don't try, don't know. Otherwise we will be always using the same old plants.
Okay, so this is the segment where it's called Astley Stirs, where I will pick from the bowl a question for each one of you guys. The question is, if you could recommend just one plant for every Singapore home, right? What plant would that be? And why?
I really hate to say this, but despite that, Everfresh just now I said is becoming super popular. I still think it's the best plant to get.
Why?
Why? Because the vibes is correct, the look is correct, it's so easy to grow, almost hard to kill. Yeah, it's one of the best plants to grow, seriously.
So can you name 2 main characteristics of this plant? Besides the look and all that, the care tips.
Okay, generally all plants make sure you water thoroughly when it's time to water. Okay, for Everfresh, keep the soil moist. Don't let the top half an inch or top 10% of the soil dry out.
Define thoroughly.
Okay. Our Ama's time is everything want water a bit. What happens with watering a bit is that water stays on top, the roots are below. So the roots eventually will suck in all the water and it dries out. Then you'll see the plant starts to shed. So when we say water thoroughly means really drench. Okay, don't be afraid. When it's time to water, don't be afraid of how much water. So for example, let's say this is 300 ml. Okay? When you water, you give 10 gallons of water, how much can this take?
Still 300 ml.
Exactly. Basically, but we get all the soil moist, the rest of the water will drain out.
As long as it's good drainage.
Correct. As long as all the soil gets moist, the water drains out. So when it's time to water, don't be afraid of water. That's what a lot of people are very scared of. 300 ml, I give it 50 ml, but this 50 ml only stays on top or just wets part of the soil. Then the rest of the roots, how?
But you're saying this just for Everfresh or it's across the
Generally
board?
across the board. I think there's this misconception. Overwatering is not about the amount of water, but rather the frequency of the watering. For example, Everfresh, most typically, 2-3 times a week, indoors, outdoors probably maybe every day or every other day. Cacti, succulents and all that are probably once every 3 to 4 weeks, but you still have to water thoroughly. So it's just the frequency that's different.
What's the second care tips?
Prune your plant, generally, by pruning, a lot of people, let it grow, 不舍得剪, but by pruning, actually, you encourage more growth, branching, new leaves, new growth, and also it thickens the stems.
Okay, so now we move to Master KK's question. When you walk into a beautifully designed home with no plants at all, maybe you can tell us through an experience, would you feel like something was missing? Do you think plants complete a home?
I've got to stand on my customer's point of view, I've got to stand on not just my Feng Shui point of view. Certain people just don't know how to keep plants or no time. So you must give the leeway to them that they don't have plants at home.
They have the option.
So some people love plants, but they don't know how to keep plants. Okay, so then they hoard the whole place with plants. So it's overpowering as well. Feng Shui is Mother Nature, is environmental study, is geography. What do you have in the environment, in the outside world? It's good to have them in the inside world. Plants, animals. I keep fish, So it's up to you whether you want to do up your house tastefully or not. Having said that, I cannot impose when I work with interior designer when I come to the customer house. Maybe the interior designer is not trained in plants and horticulture.
And also plants are not essentials.
Correct. So
I will argue that, but never mind.
so sometimes we need to see 谁是兵谁是主，我是那个兵，我不是那个主。Sometimes this whole process is led by an interior designer. I will follow, and then on occasion where customers need suggestions or need remedy, plants is always something that I always like to introduce them. And it's cheap, it's not expensive, and it's a real life thing, and it does work. Most important, it's effective.
I think in this day and age where, again, with modern nurseries or modern plant shops like Plant.co, providing that accessibility. Like I said, really the transition was from small potted plants at NTUC, right? And then the jump right now is to have this very manicured bonsai, and it's not as scarily, dauntingly expensive as we think. There are more and more reasons, more and more compelling reasons to bring plants into the house. Just to know what will be the next big thing. Honestly, I'm also in love with the Everfresh. And I think my problem is I'm in love with everything. I also like the ficus. I also like the bottle tree. That's another story altogether. But I think with that, right, I want to segue to advices that the both of you can give, right, based on your own trade expertise. What's the one advice that you want to give to homeowners when it comes to plant keeping, Jason?
If you want plants, make sure you do regular pest control. Pest control, very important. Pest control is not to eradicate pests because this is a whole ecosystem. Definitely there will be pests at some point, whether they are eggs or they are whatever, especially in air-conditioned places. But pest control can help you mitigate the situation such that if ever there's an infestation, it cannot be too major until your whole plant dies. So pest control can be something that's very simple as getting a bottle of pesticide, spraying on the leaves, top, bottom, stems, surface of the soil, or it can. They also come in granules that you can actually just put on the soil itself. So it's prevention. So always remember, pest control is like we shower, we take vitamins, but we still have germs on us. We take vitamins, we still fall sick, but we won't fall sick until to the extent that it becomes incurable.
Master?
So if you decided to have plants at home, take care of them. Just
like a family member.
Correct. Like a pet. If you have a pet at home, it's a commitment. Do not neglect them. Do not buy because someone says it's nice or it's on sales or it's just good for Feng Shui. If you don't take care of it, then don't have it.
Thanks so much for your wonderful advice and sharing by Master KK as well as Jason. We learned a lot. A lot of fun talking about plants and Feng Shui. Don't sound like they were linked, but somehow or other actually got a lot of linkages. Hope you guys managed to learn a little bit from each other as well.
Yes. First time meeting KK.
I really enjoyed talking to him.
Awesome.
Someone good looking.
第一次的默契 Tall, dark and handsome. Okay, so with that, right, we come to the end of this episode of the SIXiDER Show. Hope you enjoy it. If you like what you're seeing, remember to like, subscribe, share. Tell your friends who are thinking of exploring Feng Shui, exploring plants, and share this episode with them. Thank you and bye-bye.